Raster versus vector artwork. Hey guys, Kerry Hawkins here with another VectorMade.com tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about the basic differences between raster and vector graphics. Let's jump on in. So on the left you have a raster, on the right you have a vector. They're the same graphic, icon, logo, but they're made in totally different ways. On the left everything's made out of pixels, and on the right everything's made out of vector lines and shapes. And so if I go to view outline, you'll see, you can also hit Control Y. I use that pretty frequently. But you'll see everything that's vector has an outline to it, to the shape. You can actually see where the shapes are going to be drawn. Whereas if it's a raster, it's just going to have the bounding box that raster graphic is in. So this is just the square that the image comes in, right? And I'll go back so you can see them again. So these are made of pixels, which means that they can be pixelated. Pixelation is just when you increase the size of something with pixels and it starts to look jagged like this. See, these are all individual pixels. You can see the little squares. This is called aliasing whenever you see that. And anytime you have a raster graphic, if it gets large enough, it will have something like this happen. They are not scalable in that sense that you can just take a graphic and then blow it up to huge proportions and not lose quality. And I think that's better illustrated in Photoshop. So let me come over here. Here's the image at about a 5-inch by 5-inch size, something like that, at 72 dpi. So it looks pretty good when you're about right here. You know, you can't really see the pixelation too much at that size. But let's do this and drop it down to, let's say, a 1-inch wide and see what happens. Hey, it still looks okay at, let's see, 100% is right there. Still looks okay, right? But if you zoom in, you'll start to see, oh man, that's really pixelated. And now, if we go back to the 5-inch size, what happens? Well, it actually looks worse now than it did previously. That's because whenever you take something that's made out of pixels and you shrink it down, it removes some of the information when you shrink it. So there are X number of pixels at the 5-inch by 5 size, a lot more than there are at the 1-inch by 1-inch size. So when we bring that down from 5 inches to 1 inches, the image gets compressed a little bit, and Photoshop just tries to do the best it can to represent the graphic with fewer pixels. But then when we go from 1-inch to 5-inch, it's trying to blow up the information contained within 1 by 1 into a 5 by 5. So you actually lose a lot of the information and a lot of the clarity this way. And if I back up 2 steps, you'll see the difference. See? Huge difference there. By contrast, vector graphics can be scaled to any size and they never lose clarity. So I can blow this up to infinity and beyond, and it's still perfectly smooth and vector. And it doesn't matter. I can scale it down, I can scale it up. It does not matter. The only thing that might make a difference here is if you're in a program that does not handle vector graphics well, and some of them don't. Like, you're not going to be able to put too many vector graphics in some of the cheaper graphic design programs that are out there. The common file types over here on raster are going to be like JPEG, PNG, GIF or GIF depending on your preference, and bitmap files. Over here on the raster, the vector side, you're going to have Adobe Illustrator files, so those are .ai, PDF, .eps, which is going to kind of be like a anything can open it as long as it can open vectors. EPS is kind of a universal file format. Also, I might add slightly larger in size because of that than the other formats. And then there's SVG as well, which is more common for web. Typically, however, raster graphics are going to be more used in web design and television, or anything that really uses pixels to represent the art, so monitors and things of that nature. Although more things are heading over into the vector direction, and have been for years now. SVG is one of the things I've mentioned, and that's really common to see logos done in SVG format. Plus, a lot of things can be coded in now that used to not be able to be coded in web design. So really a lot more of your web stuff ends up being over here in the vector side of things, which is great. Helps with scalability and differences on viewing size of your devices, be it a smartphone or your desktop or what have you. These are typically also going to be better for logos and other graphics that need to be scaled. I use a lot of vectors in my print because they end up printing sharper. The only time I don't is if it's with a picture. Pictures are really best as raster if there's lots of information, lots of detail. It's really hard to get that in a vector format. And let me show you with this example. Here's a little boy swimming. This would be, pretty standard picture where it's got all sorts of detail in the background and then a person's face, which has a lot of highs and lows and little details. Like look at the little beads of water on his face and then all the different colors in it and gradations of color. So this has all sorts of different blues in it and cyans, and each little slot here would have to be vectorized, and that would take you forever. Well, you can do it, and it's called live tracing, and let me show you what it did. This is the live traced on the highest setting, I might add. And if you look at it closely, it looks terrible. So it just doesn't translate into a vector format well, and this wouldn't scale any better than this would really. This would pixelate, but this looks terrible. So pick your poison on that one. So I always recommend if you're going to do an image, a photo like this, that you should just leave it in raster. There's no point in vectorizing it unless you want to go for that sort of cartoon look, which I wouldn't have this much detail in it anyway. But those are the basic differences between the two formats, pixels, and this one's mathematical equations. I have a couple of videos that deal with converting raster to vector. One of them deals with kind of a conversion known as live trace, which is what I have here, but kind of shows you how to do it in a way that might make a little bit more sense. And then the other one is going to be converting from raster to vector using mostly the pen tool and other shape tools and such. And I will leave descriptions for both of those, links in the description, and also probably put a link here at the end of the video. So please like, subscribe, and share my content. Leave any questions or comments in the section down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.